All right. So, good morning. Happy Tuesday, May 19th. So today is a pretty simple day, pretty chill day. I'm going to present my screen and kind of showcase what it is that you guys are going to be doing today. Pretty easy, but I do want to kind of show you something new that we're trying, and that is a Padlet. So Padlet's kind of like a wall where you can do posts of different information and that kind of thing. So if I'm looking at our agenda for the week that I sent out on Sunday to your email, and then it's also under the agenda material each day. If I look for Tuesday's material, we've got the last chapter today for our read aloud, and then our Padlet activity. So if you click on the link, it takes you straight to the Padlet, and it's a pretty simple question. The direction is always at the top, and awesome. I see we've got 4 different people here. So it says, share what vocab word you feel most comfortable with using and the one that you feel least comfortable with using. Explain why for each. Okay. So I see Noah's popping on. Awesome. Make sure that you're using your first and last name so I know who's posting what. So if I would be someone that takes a look at our vocab words, I'm just going to kind of look at the introduction, and I'm just going to do like a super quick example so that you guys can see that this isn't supposed to be a huge thing, but it's supposed to help you kind of reflect which words do you think you need to study more. So I have process, suppress, integrate, restrict, implication, proposal, illustrate, boundary, and those are our 8 words. So if I'm thinking from like a 6th grader's perspective, I could see illustrate is one that we would probably understand more because it sounds like illustration. And then possibly one that we aren't quite sure what it might all entail is suppress. I think that one we don't hear a lot of. So suppress, I could see implication being another one. Proposal, not necessarily the ring one, but and it could be, but any sort of suggestion to consider by others. So there's a few that I could see for both sides. Again, this isn't supposed to be something that is supposed to make you nervous, but is simply to kind of help you guys reflect and see that, yeah, there are some easier words and then there's some trickier words. Just making sure, though, that we are fully explaining our thinking with it and are able to reflect and use that to help us realize which words do we need to study more. And become more familiar with. The other thing, the third and final thing then, is your social studies activity today. So I tried taking what was originally planned by a different teacher and making it a little bit like even more simpler for you guys. So you only have one thing you need to really open. So you're going to click on the Google form. Read the directions. It says, and this week it's all about refugees trying to fit in, which can be very difficult. Recall the latest episode in Aloud and Gabriel's journey. Remember, Aloud is a girl, Gabriel is a boy. And in that last unit, Gabriel and Aloud went on an airplane and landed in St. Paul, or Minneapolis, Minnesota, around that area. So you will now read about how their life is beginning in the United States. So you're going to put your first and last name. Make sure you capitalize the first letter of both the first and the last name. Take a look at the timeline of events and kind of realize how far this is stretched. Aloud was born in Fathai, Southern Sudan in 1980, and then her brother was born 2 years later. At 10 years old for Aloud, Fathai is attacked, and that's when the fire set to the village and they were trying to gather children. So that's why the children specifically were fleeing. And then in 1991, they arrive at the Kakuma camp. So now we're in 2001. So they were at the Kakuma camp for quite a while. And kind of looking at that timeline, it helps you put in perspective how long refugees are truly fleeing from their country, how long refugees have to deal with conflict going on in their country, and how they're trying to overcome it and seek some sort of new normal, seek some sort of new home, whether it be temporary or permanent. So I understand that this might be a little blurry, even if you zoom in and out. If you can read it, that's awesome. If not, you have two options. You can click on this link to read the PDF where it's more crystal clear to read, or you can have it read to you by one of the teachers at Foxview, one of the 6th grade team teachers. They went and read through it. So if you rather listen to it, you can do this one, or if you rather have a better reading setup, you can click on that link. So once you're done reading, there's some multiple choice questions with only one short answer question. The other ones are just making sure that you read it and read closely. And then the last one is supposed to kind of help you dig deeper into the text and make those connections that we want you to be doing when you read and in social studies in general. So make sure here it says read the lines. It says the irony is that we moved here from Afghanistan so that I could be free. So this is a new character you're going to be introduced to called Layla. And Layla is from Afghanistan, and she left Afghanistan, is a refugee too, and was seeking freedom in the United States, just like Gabriel and Aloud. But while she was seeking and hoping for shelter and freedom, has that necessarily been the case? So you have to say, yes, that is the case, she has freedom, or no, that's not the case, she's not seeing freedom in the United States. And then you need to make sure you fully explain your thinking by providing evidence and just kind of elaborating. Notice that this question is worth 4 points, so it's just like a normal response question that I'm looking for. I'm looking for your statement that you're making, so yes or no, she does or does not have freedom in the US, and at least 2 pieces of evidence with some explanation as to why. Why is that the case? Okay? And then submit, and then when you're done, you just mark it as complete. So I hope kind of going through that has been a little bit helpful. Tomorrow we are going to read the super short author's note, but we do have a fun Flipgrid activity that we'll be doing. We haven't done a Flipgrid in a while. So that is what today looks like. And then tomorrow, Thursday, remember, I'm taking a break from doing some sort of read aloud. And then Friday, I am starting Hot Reads for the Summer with Miss Readinger, where I'll start reading like the first chapter. It's not going to be like a 30-minute video. It's probably more so 10, kind of depending on what books I find that I would recommend for you guys to read in the summer. So we left off with the second to last chapter before that we read. And in that chapter, they came into a village to find a healer of some sort to help Amomazim because of how sick he is. And the healer's name was Anus. And Anus said, and she's old herself, said, like, there's nothing that I have that's going to help your grandfather, because they lied and said that Amomazim was their grandfather. That was just the story they stuck to this whole time. He kind of has been acting like one. Even though he's got a commander badge for the Mukabarat. And so they're kind of uncertain as to what's going to happen in this last chapter. So with the activity tomorrow, if you want to do it earlier, you can. I'm fine with that. Essentially, what you're doing is reacting to the ending of the story. I've heard things, I haven't read it yet, but I've heard that stuff goes down, that kids will be reacting. So I'm kind of intrigued as to what's going to happen. So you're going to have your thoughts, reactions, feelings about the ending of the story in the Flipgrid. And then there's a video, literally like 44 seconds, that compares the city of Aleppo, the old city is what it's called, that specific part in Aleppo, that compares the before pictures of what things used to look like and then after the war was taking place, or currently is taking place. So it kind of shows you the before and after. So if you want, you can do it today and not have to do it tomorrow. But that's what the activity is. It is in that week overview that you can click on, and it is already active. So if you want to have your reactions fresh in your mind and you want to do the Flipgrid early and do it today, go right ahead. Just make sure you watch that video that's attached to the Flipgrid. Okay, literally 44 seconds. But it's kind of amazing what you see. So let's pick up with our last chapter. October 13th, 2013, 9:49 p.m. Water, whispered a faint voice. Nadia dropped the wooden spoon in the pot of lentil stew on the stove and ran over to the bed with a glass of water. Tarek propped up the old man's head as she pressed the cup to his dry lips. After a long sip, he said, "My pills, please, give me 2. He must be in a lot of pain. As he swallowed them, Nadia stood at the edge of the bed, the medicine bottle clenched tightly in her hand. Please, please, Allah, make him better so that we can leave. I'm sorry, but he may be like a Mukhabarat commander, but he's like dying. Stop worrying so about yourself. Stop being selfish. Goodness. Thank you, said Amal Mason. He leaned back, and his frail body shook with rattling coughs. He covered his mouth with a kerchief, and when he pulled it back, Nadia was horrified to glimpse a dark streak of blood. So he's coughing up blood, so somehow he's got blood in his lungs. Are you hungry? Asked Tarek. He shook his head. Where are we? Where are we? How long have I been asleep? We are in a village called Shams, explained Tarek. At a healer's house, the one you met earlier. She stepped out to get some supplies. You've been asleep for over 24 hours, Basal piped in. How did we get here? Asked Amal Mason. While the boys filled him in on how they saved Jamila, Nadia stood at the foot of the bed. You did all of that? Amal gasped in amazement. What an ingenious idea, Nadia. I'm so proud of you. All of you. We need to leave, interrupted Nadia. We've wasted enough time. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to keep my reactions to myself because I know that you can use these reactions right now as part of your Flipgrid. But I'm kind of like, No, you didn't. Okay. Amal Mason blinked. His face turned sober. Yes, we must discuss how to continue toward the Turkish border. Jamila has been fed and watered, so we just need to get you back onto the cart, said Nadia. I'm afraid that's not possible, said Amal Mason. What do you mean? Said Tarek, frowning. Amal Mason sighed and closed his eyes for a moment, conflicting emotions flickering across his lined face. Actually, I'm surprised that I've made it this far, he said. What do you mean? What's wrong with you? Asked Basel in his usual blunt fashion. Amal Mason opened his eyes. I have cancer, he said. What? Gasped the little boy. The doctors gave me 3 months to live, and that was 6 months ago, he continued. Every day I've had since Sorry, let me try rereading this so it makes sense. Every day I've had since has been a blessing. Cancer? Thought Nadia. The ground dropping away from beneath her feet. The sensation of betrayal, which she decided to bury, rose up again. You didn't tell us, said Tarek, voice tight. Son, said Amomazan, life on this earth is temporary for everyone. You lied, Nadia blurted. You've lied about everything. Your sickness, your name. Who really are you? The boys looked at her in surprise. Nadia yanked her backpack from under the bed and pulled out the identification cards. You are one of them. What are you talking about? Said Tarek. Staring in confusion at the cards, she tossed on the quilt. Nadia snatched up one and handed it to him. Read it, she whispered harshly. Ahmed Mazen Muklauf, read Tarek. He paused and uttered the next line. Cabaret commander? Shock registered on his face, and he stepped away from the bed. You are a Mukabarat? Said Bassel. Amomazan looked at them with weary eyes. Yes, at one time I was. Why have you been lying to us? Said Nadia, tears running down her cheeks. He looked at her with a steady gaze. I have never lied to you or to anyone else, he said, a pained look on his face. All the people who need to know who I am. They understand who I was and who I became, a product of the choices I've made in my life. I'm going to read that one last line one more time because I think this is super important and could be another side theme of the book. They understand who I was and who I became, a product of the choices I've made in my life. So that's another thing you could talk about in your flip grid for tomorrow. What do you think they mean by that? Because it's super powerful and meaningful. And I could see it as a huge theme of the book. But how is this true? Asked Tarek, still staring at the card. I was born in Querdaha in the northwest mountains on my family's farm. He began, eyes drifting off as if he were looking out over a grove of oranges. As an Alawite, I was granted many privileges when Hafez came to power. He continued. Remember, an Alawite is from what my understanding is, their type of, not religion, but specific ethnicity and religion. Not 100% sure, but I was a young man hoping to help build a bright new Syria. You were a part of those who ruled over the rest of the country with an iron fist, said Nadia, the words she'd been hoarding in her heart just spilling out. The country had been in turmoil since the French left, and Hafez brought unity, said Amomazan, ignoring her outburst. In the beginning, I was caught up in the glory of the moment, of the endless possibilities. But you're not with them, the Mukabarat, now? Asked Bassel. No, said Amomazan. As Hafez established absolute power, allowing injustice, inhumanity, and corruption to seep like poison into the country that I loved so much, I could no longer do what was expected of me. Then what did you do? Asked Nadia. What she wanted to ask was, who are you now? Amazing caught Nadia's troubled gaze. I left the Mukabarat nearly 40 years ago, he said. Hopefully that's true. Tainted by their terrible work, I pretended I was ill and retreated into books where there existed new worlds, people, and ideas. He began to cough, and Tarek gently helped him sip from the cup of water. Thank you, son, he said with a grimace. Soon after, I stumbled upon a path that led me to become a book repairer. And with my cart, I traveled to every corner of Haleb, meeting historians, bishops, and common folk. And as I grew to know them better, they shared their worries with me. A doctor couldn't find foreign-made medicines he desperately needed. A journalist requested a reliable source for her story on a government corruption. A taxi driver's son had been taken by the Mukabarat, and he couldn't find which prison he was in. When I could, I used my network of contacts within the secret police, government, and army to help such people find the goods or the information they needed. So he still remained in connection with some people he really trusted, it sounds like, to help him with those different good deeds he's trying to take care of. That's amazing, Bissell said, eyes wide. The scorching anger that flared within Nadia fizzled, leaving the deep affection that had grown over the past few days. He was a gentle old man who'd spent his life helping people, a man who decided to take a lost girl and 2 orphans to safety. I'm sorry, Nadia whispered, collapsing beside the bed as she finally learned the reality of who the old man was. Sorry that I believed the worst. Another important line. It's not your fault, my dear, Amazin said, smiling. I'm afraid I'm a man who has learned not to reveal much. You are Amazin, no one else, she said. Tarek took the old man's hands and knelt down. Allah forgives all those who repent the past and pursue what is good. Yes, said Amazin. He looked at Nadia with haunted eyes, about to say something else, but then Anus burst through the door. She stood, panting. For the old woman to be running, it's a little like something not good is about to happen. You must go. Now, the black flags of ISIS are headed this way. They've taken the city of Azaz and are pressing their way east, battling competing rebel forces, while the Syrian army moves in from the west. We'll be caught in the middle, blurted Tarek. Remember, ISIS is helping Syrian army forces, so they're going to trap. Sounds like that's their military game plan. Nadia stared at Amazin, eyes pleading. Please come with us. She turned to Anus. It's not safe here, she said. Everyone should come with us. No, my dears, our bones are too weary to leave. She laughed softly. This is our land, our home. We will be buried here with our forefathers in the dirt of Syria. Basal stood holding his gun to his chest. "You have to come with us, sir," he whispered, tears running down his face. "There are doctors that can help you." "Children, time has finally caught up with me," said Almamazon, his voice gentle. "My body is too weak to journey further." "But we need you," cried Nadia. "My dear girl, do not weep," he said. "You have not needed me for a while now. You are much stronger than you think. And together, you three are more than capable of finishing your journey north." Umanus nodded. "I will show you the safest path," she said. "If you leave now, you can follow the road along the valley's edge, hiding from the sight of the fighters. You'll reach the border in a few hours." "Go," said Almamazon, "and take good care of Jamila for me." Page break. Umanus was wrong. It didn't take a few hours to reach the border. It took over 5. What with stumbling over rocky paths, the echo of gunfire and mortar rounds echoing all around them. Twice they'd sought cover. Once to avoid a stoop of rebels, and the second time when a group of refugees frightened them into the thicket of bushes. They skirted the town of Azaz a while ago, the black flags of ISIS fluttering against the brightening sky, the reek of diesel, gunpowder, and smoke carrying on the wind. Jamila had periodically stopped refusing to budge until coaxed with soothing rub or a treat of tomatoes. Nadia knew how she felt. The faithful donkey had refused to leave Almamazon's side until he whispered something into her flappy ear. After a final nuzzle, the donkey had allowed herself to be led from the house. Almamazon's last words ringing in Nadia's ears. "I was blessed to have been given the wisdom to leave the Mukabarat. I then chose to journey on a path filled with compassion and mercy. Now, child, it is your turn. Be wise in the choices you make." "Look," whispered Basel as they crested a hill, interrupting Nadia's thoughts, which lay back at the village with those they had left behind. He pointed along a path. It was Kilis, the Turkish town bordering Syria. "We made it," said Tarek. He muttered a prayer of thanks while cradling a grumpy Mishmish in his arms. Nadia stood clutching Almamazon's compass and staring in wonder at the road crammed with exhaustion, frightened souls. Most were on foot. Sounds like there's a ton of people trying to cross right there. Most were on foot, but a few cars and buses inched along the asphalt. Up ahead rose the border between Syria and Turkey, delineated by towering white walls. At the end of the road rose the arched gateway, Bab al-Salama. Red, white, and black Syrian flags fluttered in the wind. Father should be down there, on the Turkish side, she thought, then frowned. The crowd was suddenly acting like a flock of spooked sheep that had seen a fox. Something was wrong, and the caution she learned from Almamazon kept her rooted to the spot. "Let's go," said Tarek, but she held up a hand for them to wait. Finally, Nadia realized what it was. Who is managing the checkpoint? She wondered out loud, staring at the gates on the Syrian side. "No one," said Tarek, confused. "Didn't Umanu say the border was under rebel control?" Yes, said Nadia. 10 feet beyond the Syrian gate flew a duet of red flags marked with white crescent and a star. Turkey, Ankupinar border crossing. And father, thought Nadia, heart thumping against her rib cage, as she squinted at the squat guard towers on either side of the gate. Turkish soldiers with rifles perched inside, overlooking the crossing. Beyond the gate, she desperately sought a familiar figure, tall, lean, weary, wearing a bulky olive green coat. But from this distance, she couldn't make out the details of the people milling around beyond the gate. Nadia double-checked the tarp to make sure it concealed whatever belongings they had left, including her backpack, which contained Amo Mason's black velvet bag of money. He had insisted that they take it with them. Let's go, said Nadia finally, ready to pull Jamila on. But Bazelle grabbed her arm. Remember, Bazelle's always been like the lookout person. Wait, he said, staring at a battered truck parked upon a hilltop on the other side of the road. A familiar black flag flew on the back. The flag of ISIS. This is reminding me of that painting we had to analyze with Gabriel and Aloud, the Sudanese for refugees. How, like, on a border crossing, there's some soldiers that are trying to kill as many people as possible. So that's what I'm kind of inferring is about to happen with the ISIS flag and a tank and all that kind of things. Oh no, whispered Tarek, surveying the length of the road that led back towards Syria. There's another one, he added, pointing to the armored vehicle parked on the route to Azaz, flying the same flag. It looks like they've chased the rebels from the border crossing, said Nadia, now realizing why there were no rebels at the border. She eyed the men slouched in the back of the truck closest to them. A bedraggled family with crying children passed the truck, picking up their pace. The men in the truck observed them, but let them continue. They're not doing anything, just sitting there, muttered Bassel. Maybe they were sent here from Azaz to keep watch and wait? Conjectured Tarek. Wait for what? Asked Bassel. To take over the border crossing? Said Nadia. Then what are we waiting for? Squeaked Bassel. Bassel's right, said Tarek, placing Mishmish in his sack. We need to get through before a battle breaks out, or they'll set up a checkpoint. Okay, said Nadia, adjusting her woolen cap. She touched the silver brooch for good luck and started down the hill towards the road, pausing to let a truck full of exhausted families pass. Cautiously, they merged with other refugees and made their way towards the gate. Don't look at them, whispered Bassel, turning his face away as they passed the truck on the slope to the left. But despite the terrifying stories she had heard about them, how ISIS destroyed cities, looted ancient sites, and ruthlessly murdered anyone who disgraced them, Nadia couldn't help but steal a glance. Instead of red-eyed, bloodthirsty barbarians, she found dusty, bedraggled men, many her brother's age, dozing in awkward positions. So they must be really tired from conquering Azaz. Azaz. The ones that were awake sat bleary-eyed, staring at the flow of humanity passing by. Nadia blinked in wonder. These are the fearsome ISIS warriors? She focused on the border crossing, not realizing she was practically running as Jamila picked up speed, weaving through the crush of traffic. Nadia, slow down, Tarek called from behind. Jamila, Nadia cried, leaning over to wrap an arm around the neck of the agitated donkey. Where is the beauty in a donkey? Oh, I'm sorry. Here we try to go. Where is the beauty in a donkey? Nadia began to sing, the stumpy body, long ears. It's the heroic heart, stubbornness, and intellect beyond the long lashed eyes. The intelligent animal blinked. Oh, thank God I don't have to sing anymore. Whew. That did not go over well. The intelligent animal blinked, slowing, and the boys caught up with them. We should go that way, said Basel, pointing towards a gap in the throng that wound its way towards the gate. Nadia nodded, scanning the area along the fence, delineating the border. Do you see him? Asked Basel, hopefully. Nadia shook her head as the crowd heaved forward, blocking her view of the gate. She peered through a gap between the group of girls and their mother, but she could see nothing. Jamila brayed, uncomfortable in the crush. They slowed beside a group of drooping children, standing with their parents near an idling bus. Further on stood an old man leaning on a cane. Nadia's hip pressed up against the cart, sending a shooting pain down her leg. The cart, she thought, and clambered on top. Good idea, said Tarek, climbing up beside her. From her vantage point, Nadia scanned the gate, peering past Bab al-Salama toward the Turkish An-Kupinar crossing. There are soldiers there, said Basel, pointing to a point beyond the guard tower, and others. Nadia caught a flash of a man's bald head and grabbed Basel's hand. The man stood pressed against the gate, staring back into Syria, wearing a bulky olive green coat that matched the cap on her head. I know that was a longer chapter, but I think it was worth it. So, the end. Mark this assignment as complete. If you want, you can go, like I said, to that week view of where you can access the Flipgrid, and you can complete the Flipgrid early if you want. Just make sure that in your Flipgrid you're putting your thoughts and reactions of our ending of our read aloud book. And then the other thing that you got to do is your thoughts and reactions to the video of seeing what Aleppo looked like before and after. Super short video, and it's posted in Flipgrid. So if you want to do that early, you can. Otherwise, you can wait for tomorrow. I will show that video tomorrow as well. Tomorrow I plan on reading the author's note, super short. And then after the author's note, I'll show that video of Aleppo before and after. And then you guys can do the Flipgrid tomorrow instead if you want. But your choice if you want to do it earlier or not. But make sure you mark this assignment as complete. Yeah, a lot happened there. I can't talk about it too, which is kind of sad. So I hope you guys have a great day. Today is Eat Lunch Outside. So maybe wear a sweatshirt, but hopefully I'm glad the rain stopped. So office hours today are at 10. We can play a Quizlet game reviewing our vocab words for this week. But otherwise, just mark this assignment as complete. Do the Padlet for vocab, telling me what words you're comfortable with and what words you're not, and explaining why you think that. And then do the Google form. So, all right, that's it. I hope you guys have a great day.